My name is Destiny Rodriguez, and I'm going to show you how to create an income statement. Today, I will explain what an income statement is, what is required in creating this type of document, and how to create an income statement. What is an income statement? An income statement breaks down a company's sales, costs, profits, and losses. It is sometimes referred to as a profit and loss statement. After deducting expenses necessary to get said income, it displays the amount of money the company made from its core operations or its revenue. Net income or profit, or net loss, is the outcome. This knowledge may assist you in forecasting future opportunities, selecting a business plan, and setting relevant goals for your team. Since this document presents a lot of moving parts, it is important to learn what belongs in what category and what each category means. Here I will present what is required in an income statement. There are a ton of different elements of an income statement. Today I will be discussing the core 5 elements, being revenue, expenses, assets, liabilities, and stockholders' equity. The remaining elements are equally as important, but these ones are what will be touched on the most in this example. Here are a couple other elements of an income statement that are also important to learn and see and understand as well. These won't be discussed or touched on in this example, but they're important to see. It is also important to note and understand that depending on the company's policy and the level of detail in its income statement, some of these components may be further expanded or they may be combined. It just depends on the company, meaning there may be more items or there could be less items. Like I said, I wanted to really break down each category and go more into detail about the items that belong in them because there are a lot of items, a lot of names that go into it, and I wanted to make it a little bit easier. I think it could be easier if a list was made with each item and it correspond to each category, but here are just a few. There is a lot more, but here's a few. If you see sales revenue, it would belong in revenue. Same with merchandise sale. If you see wages, rent, utilities, it'll be in expenses. If you see cash, that's definitely an asset. And then like liabilities, it would be accounts payable, notes payable, loans, things like that. Now that we have learned about the various elements of an income statement, we should be able to create this document. This is an example of an income statement that I will be working out with you guys today. If you look to the left, these are the numbers that will be presented to you by the business in order to create the document. The first step is to organize the given information. I think that this step is incredibly important and is incredibly necessary to complete because it helps you organize your time and utilize your time as efficiently as possible. Here I highlighted the revenue in yellow, the expenses in pink, the assets in blue, the liabilities in green, and the stockholders' equity in orange. Next, we have to do some math, and this is where we also begin formatting our document. We will begin by adding all of our expenses together, and for this particular example, we get the total number to equal out to $13,200. That's adding the salaries and wage expense, supplies expense, rent expense, utilities, all of that equals out to $13,200. And the way we format the expenses is in order of magnitude, which is greatest to least. If we look at my example, salaries and wage expense is the most, and then the least is $700, and that's why it is at the bottom. Next, we can place our revenue, which is $23,000, and begin properly formatting with the title of the document at the top, and then followed with the date. These two numbers, the revenue $23,000 and the total expense $13,200, will come in handy. Next, we will find our net income and our retained earnings for the month. To find the net income, this is where I will present our first formula, which is total revenue minus total expenses. In this case, that equation will be 23,000 minus 13,200, and that equals 9,800. After we find our net income, we will add that to our retained earnings, which is 15,000. That equals out to 24,800. And then our dividends finally come into play. We subtract that from 24,800, the 6,000, which is our dividends, and we get 18,800. This will be the end of month retained earnings. And as we go along, we will continue formatting correctly. Shown to the right is the correct way to format this portion of the income statement. In step 3, we will move to the balance sheet portion of the income statement. The balance sheet is where we take care of the assets, the liabilities, and the stockholders' equity. It is called a balance sheet because all of these numbers must equal out to each other to be correct. If you look at the image to the left, the total assets and the liability and equity are equal to each other. This is where we do a little bit more math. This is where we get our total asset number, which is also what the liability plus the stockholders' equity must equal out to. So we're just going to do, all of the assets category that we highlighted, we're just going to add that all together, and we get 54,800. The correct way to organize assets is by liquidity. This means that the items must be organized by how easily they could be converted to cash without losing its value. Finally, we can add our liabilities category together. In this example, we get 6,000 and our stockholders' equity together, which is common stock plus the new retained earnings. The only way for this to be correct is if we use our new retained earnings, which is 18,800, and not the original 15,000 that they give us. So our total stockholder equity is 48,800 plus total liabilities, which is 54,800. And this equals out to our total assets, which means our balance sheet is correct. The final step is combining our progress. Now that the math aspect is done, and hopefully along the way, so was the formatting of the document, we just have to add some tweaks and combine it all into one. The next slide will show our completed income statement example. So here is the completed example of the Aero Industries income statement for the month ended January 31st. I kept all my headings correct. I have the presented numbers they gave me. I have all of my math there, my total expenses, my net income, my new retained earnings, my total assets, my total liabilities, my total stockholder equity, and those equal out to each other, which means our balance sheet is correct. So our income statement is done. And that is how you create an income statement. I hope I broke it down easily and it was easy to understand. Thank you guys so much for stopping in, and hopefully you learned something new.